This week, I need to read something light and cozy. Hi friends and readers, another week, another reading vlog. Last week I actually read 2 books that are commonly banned in America, and believe it or not, those books were a little bit heavy, hard to read, a bit intimidating. And so this week I wanted to set myself up for success by not putting myself into a book slump with any more heavier books. So we're going for something more lighthearted and, for me as a reader, a little bit easier to read. Oftentimes when I'm looking for some fluff or I'm looking for something in between those hard-hitting books, I'm picking up a romance book. Let's just be real. I have been saving some books just like these ones for scenarios just like this one. I'm in the middle of 2 romance series. One of them's a hockey romance series and one of them is a cowboy romance series. And I feel like this is just the perfect week to get back into those series and just have a fun little lighthearted week of reading. So let's start on the first book. It is now, what is today? Today's Tuesday and I am on my lunch break, so we're doing the first update for the first book we are reading this week. And that book is called Unbound by Peyton Curran. I have made it to page 175, chapter 31, and that is 37% of the way through this book, which to me signifies that this is one of those longer hockey romance books. Let's see how many pages are in this book. I don't know. I'm going to about this book on my Kindle, and it says that this book is 496 pages. Oh my goodness, this is a longer romance book. This is book number 3 of what will be 4 books in the Undone series by Peyton Curran. I do know that this book just came out back in April, so within the last 2 months, and book number 4 is not out, but I do think that book number 4 comes out this year still. TBD. The Undone series, I first heard about book number 1 from my coworkers actually. When I first started working at my current job, we were doing sort of a book club, and the first book in the series came up as a potential book to read. So I put it on my TBR and then I ended up reading it. However, the really big motivator for reading book number 1 actually came for me wanting to read book number 2 in the series. I had a good time with book number 1. Book number 1 followed Reese and Sadie, and I really think that that book pulled on my heartstrings because of the kids that are in book number 1. I gave it, I think, a 3-star back then. But book number 2, I believe I gave a 4.5 star. I so enjoyed it. I'm trying to remember the names. They all have very similar names. Book number 1 is Unsteady. Book number 2 is Unloved. And both of those have pictures or covers that look very similar. Whereas book number 3's cover looks totally different. So I think they went through a rebranding. The reason why I wanted to read book number 2 is because close to when I first started my YouTube channel, I did a video reading books inspired by Rhett and Link, the 2 creators on this app. If you know Rhett and Link, then you know Rhett and Link. GMM, Good Mythical Morning. I listened to their podcast back when they were still putting out episodes called Ear Biscuits, and in one of those podcasts, Jenna, their assistant, mentioned that this book, book number 2 in the series, Unloved, talked about Rhett and Link, their show, and just had references to them. So I especially put the series on my radar to read. Read book number 2 with Ro and Freddie and absolutely adored them and their story, and knew, okay, book number 1 was alright, book number 2, Love, will for sure continue with the series, and here we are with book number 3. And then I talked about the 3rd book now that we're currently reading, Unbound, having a different cover than the first 2, and I think that also plays into the fact that the first 2 were on Kindle Unlimited and book number 3 is not on Kindle Unlimited. So from what I hear people on the internet say, that means that it got picked up for traditional publishing or something along those lines. I really never understand it. I had to buy this book to read it on my Kindle. And I mentioned that this series in general is hockey romance, but it is also college hockey romance. More recently, I've sort of discovered that I prefer, if I'm gonna read sports romance, that it be professional sports instead of collegiate sports. I feel like I may have aged out of the college romance or the college sports romance, but because I so thoroughly enjoyed book 2, I thought it's okay. I know I like this author's writing, so let's keep going. For this book, we are following a dual point of view between two characters. Our first character is Bennett, and then our second character is Paloma. And not only is it dual point of view, it is also now and then timelines. The then is back when they were first beginning college in their freshman year, and the now is, I believe, they're seniors in college. Side note on the name Paloma, I actually really like this name. The only other person I've ever heard have this name is actually Sabrina Carpenter's sister. Yes, I'm chronically online. So this is the first time I'm seeing it in a book or outside of the internet, and I do like that name. And before we get into what this book is even about, I started this video saying that I basically needed sunshine and rainbows this week in reading. And this is one of those more emotional, character-driven hockey romances. I know that sounds argy. I know that sounds like those two things can't go together sometimes, but these characters have depth, and we are really diving into what makes them them, and then in the context of themselves individually, as well as in the context of their friendship and relationship. For Paloma, everyone knows Paloma as sort of this mean girl with an attitude, and if you know Paloma, you've probably known her from what she does at parties and who she hangs out with. But underneath that, we are starting to get to know Paloma from the now and then timeline as someone way more than this, someone who has trauma and is actively trying to work through that trauma, especially with a familial background. And no one quite understands Paloma like our main character, Bennett. And oh my goodness, I just want to squeeze and love on Bennett. I think he is such a good male main character and has such good representation and layers. Bennett has OCD and is actively in therapy working on this and is very meticulous, has anxieties and compulsions that he is trying to get a handle on and work through while in the college setting, being the goalkeeper for a hockey team. You can imagine how hard that is for Bennett. And we actually know that Bennett and Paloma had a relationship in the then timeline, their freshman year. They became good friends and then eventually sparked a relationship. But now we're in the present and they're not together. We don't know why. We know that Bennett knows Paloma and Paloma knows Bennett, and they help each other and they balance each other, especially for both individual things they're going through. But something broke them apart. It's been years. They don't really talk, and we're trying to figure out why that is. So I'm gonna keep reading. I am having a good time this percentage of the way through the book. Oh my goodness, it is now Thursday and I have finally finished the book that I've been reading this week. And with the series all having very similar names, I keep confusing the names. The book that I read this week is Unbound by Peyton Curran. Book number 3 in the Undone series. Yes. Oh my goodness, this book was long. This book was just under 500 pages and I won't lie, it felt long. There was so much happening with the then timeline and the now timeline. I was getting pretty confused because in the then timeline, they're freshmen, and then in the now timeline, they're seniors. So while that might feel like a lifetime to those people, actually, to me, it was kind of hard to differentiate the timelines from them being freshmen and them being seniors and their relationship differences in the two, especially because some of the flashbacks would be in scenes and places that the people were still visiting in the now timeline timeline. So I was like, wait a second, where are we? And with this book, I will say there are certainly trigger warnings. This is an emotional and heavy sports romance. Don't even consider it sports romance, honestly. This is a heavy emotional romance between two people in college who both have significant traumas, especially our female main character and then our male main character working through having OCD, and how both of those things are going head to head in a relationship on top of the typical romance genre with miscommunication and third act conflict slash past conflict working its way into future conflict. It's hard to be mad at characters when they're in college and miscommunicating because it feels like they're so young, they're naive. There's definitely going to be miscommunication that needs to be worked through at least, and then add trauma and grief on top of that. Despite all the things that both of these characters have to work on individually, Bennett and Paloma, they are so romantic and they have such an intimate relationship together. I especially love Bennett. I think Bennett is so sweet, and the connection that they have with poetry, they both write poetry to each other or give each other poetry that they've read. I think that what I've come to find out with Peyton Corinne's characters, especially her male main characters, I really like how they're written and enjoy them in these college hockey romances. And I think that's why I like this series of college romance as to where maybe didn't like other college romances. And the last thing I'll say with college hockey romances, where did puck bunnies come from? Like, who made this up and why do we keep saying it? There is some spice in this story. Like, it's pretty spicy, so keep that in mind. And then now I just want to talk about how this book, and then highlight to the next book, which will be book 4. This book definitely sets up who we are going to read for book 4 in the series, and I did go on to Goodreads and check it out. Book 4 is going to be called Undone, so the Undone series. Book 4 will be the final one, and it comes out in October of this year, which is super exciting because we just got this book not that long ago. I know who the male main character is going to be, and we also know who the female main character is going to be, and that's because we hear and see about them a lot in this book, in Unbound. And I'm really excited because book number 4, the character is portrayed as the bad guy in this series. He is widely hated by the other characters in the stories, and then in book 3 he starts coming around and it seems like there's more to him, as of course there will be. And I'm really just excited for his story in particular to know more because of how he had relationships with characters in book 1, 2, and 3. And then also the found family aspect as you go through a series like this one, and all of the characters you've already learned in books 1 and 2 and 3 pop up in probably book 4. It's just so fun to get to see where everyone's at, while also recognizing that this author is doing something fun that sometimes doesn't always happen with interconnected series. I feel like sometimes in interconnected series, book 1 will start and then book 2 will be the timeline after, and then after, and then after. Whereas this author, books 1 and 2 are on the same timeline. Those character stories were happening at the same time. And now in the now timeline of book 3, I think we're also having the same timeline for book 4, if that makes any sense. Whew, though, with that emotional read, I think I've been reading it for the last 4 days, it feels like. When did I pick it up? On Monday, so 3 full days. I'm ready for book number 2, which I assuredly think will be a lot more light and a little bit more fluffy in all the best ways, and that's gonna be a Western romance. What a perfect little Friday. Before we get into the second book we're reading this week, I just first wanted to say it's Friday, June 12th, which means Olivia Rodrigo just put out her 3rd album, You Seem Pretty Sad for a Girl in Love. Is that how it goes? Why am I crazy? I always get this wrong. You Seem Pretty Sad for a Girl So in Love. I knew there was a so in there. And fabulous, no notes, Sad Girl Summer it is. And then Suki Waterhouse put out a new single single today. I'm having the best Friday ever. On top of that, really enjoying our read. If you've listened to Suki's new singles or Olivia's new album, let me know how you're feeling about them. I'm feeling great. This week, we are reading a book by Lila Sage, and I will be honest, I first heard about this author through the internet, really, through bookish creators, reading the Western romance series that I feel like she's known for, and then also herself. I saw her TikTok and her personal marketing for her own books and thought, I'm gonna give it a chance. Everyone always says great things about the Western romance series, and then in particular, the book that I started out with was not the Western romance series. I first read by this author the Sweetwater Peak series, or at least the first book in that, called Soul Searching, and I gave it a 4 stars. Soul Searching was paranormal romance, sort of a little bit Western romance still in there a little, but not so much as the paranormal romance. And the reason I decided to pick that up is because it came out last year, 2025, in the fall time, and I was really looking for some cozy fall reads and decided to go with Lila Sage's new release at the time. And even better, the second book in that series is gonna come out this fall, so it's like it just keeps giving, and I will definitely be picking it up. I may have seen discourse that people didn't really enjoy the paranormal romance as much as they had been the series we're reading this week, but right now I'm feeling very similar about how they're both working out for my reading preferences. Because this week we are picking up a book that is in the Rebel Blue Ranch series, and maybe I'm wrong, but I do feel like this is the series this author is mostly known for. There's a good chance you've seen these covers in some shape or form if you're on the internet watching bookish content. They are Western romances and they are so bingeable. That's the word I was looking for earlier in this, that I really wanted to pick up a book that was bingeable and a quick, fast-paced read. The first book in the series that I read sometime this year, I don't even remember, it wasn't that long ago, was Done and Dusted, and I do think after looking through reviews, Done and Dusted has been the most rated book out of the series, so a lot of popularity there on TikTok and the internet. I think I gave it a 3.75. Again, very bingeable. While I never would have said that Western romance was a niche of mine or a genre that I thought I would ever pick up, I read it and had a very pleasant time. So I thought I'll keep the rest of these books in my backlog, or the rest of this series, for a time that I needed, and that was this week. Now we are reading book 2 in this series this week, but books 3 and 4 are already out. This is a completed series. So what we're reading is called Swift and Saddled, and right now we have just made it to page 144, which is 49% of the way through this book. I started yesterday after work, so I'm currently on my lunch break. It hasn't even been 24 hours and I've read half of this book, which is how bingeable they just are. This book came out in 2024, so about 2 years ago, and it is around what says 307 pages. I've been reading the series so far on my Kindle because they are available at my local library's e-library, or Libby. What I did was, when I finished Done and Dusted, which I had a hold for Done and Dusted for so long, it was not available immediately. As soon as I finished that, I went ahead and put a hold on for Swift and Saddled. And now that I'm saying that, this is now my reminder to go put a hold on for book number 3. And so when Swift and Saddled delivered to my e-library, I decided it was a good time to hold it a little bit longer. You can suspend a hold so that you stay first in line, but you're not ready to read it immediately. And I did that. So then this week, when I wanted to read this book, I unsuspended my hold on Libby, and then it became available within a week. See, right now, book number 3 in my e-library says it would be available in about 1 month. So if you aren't already, go and use Libby or go to your local library. I did see the physical copies of these available at the library as well. In Swift and Saddled, we are following a dual point of view between Ava and Wes. Ava is an interior designer. She went to interior designing school, did not pass the school, dropped out, and still became successful by building her own brand and her own company and working hands-on in the field. Ava has come to our small little western town to help upkeep and interior design the ranch. And this ranch is in Meadowlark. So on her first day in town, she goes to a bar in hopes of getting some food and something in her system before her big day at her first gig tomorrow. And what do you know it? This cute little cowboy walks into the bar. There's immediately tension, and they just happen to hit it off in the hallway. They don't know each other. They don't even know each other's names. It gets broken up, and she basically runs runs out of the bar. And you guessed it. She shows up to work for the first day, and the person she met in the hallway at the bar, her boss. Obviously, we met Wes in book number 1 since it was an interconnected series. Ava was hinted at in book number 1. So I really do recommend reading them in order if you can, but again, they're interconnected, so you can technically read them on their own. She now knows he's her boss. She wants nothing to do with it. She wants to maintain professionalism, and also she just got out of a really bad marriage. So she's not in the mood for a relationship right now, but then again, they are on months long of a project together. We'll see what happens. We finally made it to the freaking weekend. What a good week it has been. Not only did we get Olivia album yesterday, we also got the Noah concert list. I feel like for the next few weeks I have so many concerts that I'm so excited for and so blessed that I was able to get tickets for, and I'm just living. I'm so excited. And then this book, Swift and Saddled, it just brought me back to life. Just so bingeable, so easy to read, and I am just glad that I decided to pick it up. I am really excited for the rest of the series now. I realized I was calling the main character Ava, but her name is Ada, A-D-A. So sorry about that. I absolutely adored Wes. Wes was so just sweet, and I never thought that I would picture myself enjoying a Western man. Didn't see it in my alley. But Lila Sage just writes these so, I don't know. She just puts something in them that the Western part is really the setting and the atmosphere, and less like the core of the characters. In the end, they're just people. And then I just also like so much about these books how you're building this found family across just 2 books so far, and then you know where it's gonna go in the next books. We saw Wes in book number 1. He is the brother of the female main character from book number 1, and I really think with so far the books that I've read by Lila Sage, of course there's going to be, I mean, it's cliche at this point, third act conflict. It's a romance book. Like, there has to be something that causes them issues, and in this one you can almost anticipate what it's got to be. But even with that, it's not like this crazy big deal that happens. Terrible miscommunication. No, it's sweet. They work through it quickly. I'm here for it. And I just also really love the dad character in these stories. So far with book number 1 being Emmy, and then her brother is book number 2, Wes. This family, I'm guessing book number 3 is going to be the other brother. Their dad is like matchmaking, and I think that adds just so much more sweetness to the book. I love the dad character, Amos. I'm glad that he's in there and we get to see how he's tugging on some strings. Looking ahead to the rest of the series, book number 4 is Lost and Lassoed. And when I looked at all the ratings and how people feel, I feel like this one, the 3rd book, is people's fan favorites. Let me know if you read the series, which one was your favorite. But I'm really excited for book number 3 because we've already met the characters, especially in book number 1 and this one. We're building their tension and their banter, so book number 3 is going to be good for me, I think. And then book number 4, we move out of the family, and that book 1 is the sister, books 2 and 3 are the brother. Book 4 is not in that family, but we've already also been introduced to the book 4 characters. And I think book 4 is Second Chance, so it's just going to eat up found family. Once you get through a series and you build that, I'm a sucker for it. I'm glad I reset this week after reading banned books last week. I'm gonna go get a coffee and enjoy the Saturday. Talk to you in the next video. That's all. Bye for now.